George Williams, a man deemed to be of unsound mind, was imprisoned for 50 years without ever facing a court of law. Jade Williams, researcher and advocacy manager from Jamaicans for Justice, joins us. And we're going to try to unpack where the system may have failed George and others like him. So, morning.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
I just asked a question just now, and there are so many different things that could have gone. But if my son, my father, my brother, my sister is in jail for so long, wouldn't the family jump up and say, wait, what's going on, sir? Did they try that?
Yes, most certainly. So it was something that the whole family had been aware of his incarceration and had been trying to see what could be done to have him released. You know, the problem with these kinds of matters is that while he was charged, he was deemed to be unfit to plea and therefore would be held at the pleasure of the court or of the Governor General. And so the inquiries that the family were trying to make prior to a 2020 report that came out from Indicom would have been largely unsuccessful because that mechanism really was not there for the inquiry into those cases.
Talk to me about that mechanism here, because how does someone fall through the cracks so completely that they end up in, for 50 years, half a century?
Yes, half a century.
Tell me.
Well, what happens is there are numerous challenges with the way that we treat persons who are mentally disordered in Jamaica, right? Mm-hmm. But once it is that that person is in conflict with the law, there are a few things that can happen. You know, if they are deemed unfit to plea, the court can remand them into custody. The court can release them into their family's care. The court can send them to a psychiatric facility for treatment. At the time when Mr. Williams was arrested, you know, the facility, Bellevue, he was removed from that facility and placed in a correctional facility. And having been placed in a correctional facility, what is to happen is the court is to continuously review your matter. So you're to be brought before the court. They're to check to see if your mental state has improved or not, if you're now fit to plea. And then once they determine that, then the next steps in your case would be taken. So if you are fit to plea, then your trial would go forward. If you're unfit to plea, then you are to return. But the point of this is for you to be treated to such a place that you would be fit to plea, or if you are unable to ever be fit to plea, for there to be alternative mechanisms to deal with the matter. So in Mr. Williams's case, that review process was not taking place. So after that first determination that he was unfit to plea in 1975, I believe, there's no record of him being returned to the court for that determination to be made again.
Oh my God.
Exactly what you just said. Justice Wintblair pointed out that periodic reviews are required by law in order for a court to decide whether the mental health of a defendant detained in custody has improved such that he might be fit to stand trial. Required by law.
Yes.
So who does that? The police, the court, who does that?
Well, you know, another issue that we had with where you are placed in the care of the Governor General, which is what Mr. Williams was in, is that it was kind of unclear who would make that determination. What normally would have happened is once you make your first appearance before the court would set a further date for you to appear again. But of course, especially at the time, you know, things may have fallen through the cracks where that was concerned. But where the act is clear is that the court would be the one to set the date for you to come back, since you were before the court in the first instance.
Makes absolutely no sense to blame you, me, or Delia, right? No.
Right.
But if you had to blame me, you, or Delia, who would get it? It's the court, because as you said, I'm reading from the justice that
yes,
said
I think this is one of those cases where we can look at a joint responsibility, because while this person would have been under the supervision of the court would have only seen him the one time. He would have continued to be under the supervision of the Department of Correctional Services in that facility. And knowing that he would have been held there unfit to plea on charges not convicted, being held with convicts, should have been enough for the DCS officials to look into the matter more robustly, earlier than we would have seen that inquiry made.
I'm thinking, do we have the capacity at the moment to address issues like these? Persons who are deemed, you know, mentally disordered and are in the legal system and may be deemed maybe too dangerous to be at Bellevue, where do they go?
Well, I think we're answering two questions.
Yes.
One, there is definitely the need for us to do some more robust response when persons who appear mentally disordered come into contact with the law. But you're correct in saying that we may not have the facilities that we need. One of the areas of advocacy for Jamaicans for Justice and our partners like Stand Up Jamaica, the public law chambers, has been to see a forensic psychiatric facility. In previous years, even before Mr. Williams' case, in fact, the Bellevue facility was designated for that kind of work, but it was declassified for that for quite some time now. And since then, what we've been working with is, areas in our normal prisons and lockups where we would just house these persons and allocate human resources to try and respond to them. But clearly, there will be cases that require extensive attention. And with all of the other challenges that we've had with our incarceration system, including the overcrowding, the need for additional resources, including human resources, it's a challenge to have those persons mixed in. So what we have been advocating for, and we're hoping that the state is looking into, is to have that dedicated forensic psychiatric facility where those persons who are mentally ill and in conflict with the law can go. And those persons there would be trained to deal particularly with persons who have come in conflict with the law. Because I know a question that never asked me was, did he actually commit the crime that he was